Hey, welcome to Arkansas Adventures. Today is one of my most anticipated days of the year, getting ready for deer season. Probably second for deer hunting, and deer hunting wise, just behind opening day. But other than that, love this day. This is planting day for me. This is September the 18th, I believe. So today we're gonna plant. I've got winter wheat. That's the main thing. I do have turnips that are already growing. I planted them about a month ago. They're coming in all right, although we haven't got a lot of rain since I planted it. So the shaded places that I planted it in, it's coming in a lot thicker there and a lot better. So I'll kind of go over everything with this winter wheat and then put fertilizer on everything too. I mean, it should rain overnight and into tomorrow morning, so shouldn't have to sit out there that long. And mostly what I did is I took these places, these shooting lanes and open areas that I hunt around, and I sowed about half of that to turnips a couple weeks ago. And like I said, it's coming in all right. But I'll go over the sparse areas of that, and then everything that I didn't put turnip seed on, I'll put the winter wheat on and let it start growing there, just hopefully to fill it in nice and thick. Let it be just a bright green patch over the next few months to go into late season for hunting. And so looking forward to it. The ground's prepped, ready to go. I've quit really disking up or tilling the ground. And so now basically I keep him fairly mowed through the year, and then I'll come in, late summer, and I'll just start spraying it with glyphosate or Roundup just to kill off all the vegetation that's there, and I keep it mowed. So now I've got great seed to soil contact. I put lime out there probably a couple months ago now, and so I'll just spread the seed and the fertilizer just right on top of the ground. And then with all these chances of rain we have coming in, it should grow pretty nice and thick. And so I'm going to get started on that, but along the way, whenever we go to these different spots, I'm going to share some exciting information. We've got some deer showing up pretty consistently, and I think we finally got a good enough place to where we can start to have some sort of a hit list going into this season. So I will share that with you as we go. But for now, it's hot, it's the middle of the day, it's time to get to work. All right, well, I'm pretty much finished up with this spot. I got the seed out, I got the triple 13 fertilizer out. Feel pretty good about it. Have great seed to soil contact. Kind of filled in some of those spots where the turnips weren't growing so great. Although I wouldn't be surprised if we still have some turnip seed that's in the ground that hadn't even sprouted yet. And here in Arkansas, even late September, if we get turnips growing good now, we should still get some good turnip production, even with bulbs and the greens before the first frost, hopefully. You never know, but we have a good chance of it. So I'm not too worried about that. So while I'm out here, I'm taking a little break from the work in the shade. I want to tell you about some of these deer that I have out here. All right, so in the summer, things started out pretty hopeful once I got some feed in the feeders and started putting out some other supplemental feed and stuff. Had quite a few deer showing up, several bucks at one time. Felt really good about, our chances going into the season. And, deer sometimes switch their summer range and their fall range. I think we've dealt with a little bit of that this year, although normally seem to have a pretty good retention from deer that show up in the summer. Usually stick around, we'll see them maybe hit or miss, but they'll be around the area through the fall and even winter and into the late season. And we normally, this property is pretty good about having a few surprise deer show up, especially late season. And then the rut, who knows what's going to happen there. That's why it's so exciting to hunt. And so, we do have a few regulars that are sticking around that are just giving us some hope and some excitement leading into season. And so first of all, there's 2 8-pointers. It's pretty hard for me to tell them apart just because different picture camera angles make them look a little different. You get them the right angle and one looks quite a bit bigger than the other, and then they turn around and it looks like the other one's bigger. So I do think there is one that it is 1 year older than the other one. I think he's just a little bit wider, a little bit longer time length. So we'll just call him Big Brother and the other one Little Brother. They're probably, it's questionable if they're on the hit list or not. If I had more acreage and just had a long-term plan for out here, then I'd pass up both of them this year. make sure they got another year. But just because you never know, it'll kind of come down to an in the moment decision. So those deer have been showing up together. They, have been given quite a bit of daylight activity, especially around these early season cold fronts, late summer. We've had a couple of them this year, and every time there's a cold front, these deer show up. If it's not a cold front, they're not as likely. Sometimes they show up in daylight, but normally they're probably not. But there's one buck that is for sure, at least for now, unless something else shows up, he's for sure at the top of the hit list. And that is because he is the biggest, oldest, most mature buck on the property. And now we have some history with him. I am naming him Magician. This is a buck that going into last deer season, last summer, I got some pictures of him in velvet, kind of caught our attention just because he had a unique rack. I can't tell if he injured the rack in velvet early on or what happened, but just grew a funky rack. I think he only had 2 points on one side and had just a big, what would be a 8 or 9 point frame on the other side. So 4 or 5 points on one side and just 2 on the other. He showed up in probably the middle of summer last year and then disappeared and really didn't show up at all again until right when deer season was starting, I believe. And even then, once deer season started, really just disappeared, completely fell off the radar until probably early November, I'd have to guess. I need to go back and look at pictures. And he just kind of showed up again, but it was just real occasional. I don't even think he was really on my radar as a deer that, we'd have an opportunity at. But I still spent some time out here really just chasing other bucks, but in his area. And one day last year, I got to look back and see what the date was, but I was hunting with my wife out here at this spot, and we're watching some does out here going and feeding, and a doe crossed the lane, and he was right behind her. It was gun season. I mean, he was probably 30, 35, maybe 40 yards away at the most. Had a rifle hanging up in the deer stand, like we were paying attention. We got the camera rolling pretty quick. My wife jumped over to that and started recording. I got my gun down as quick as I could, but he literally just crossed the lane and disappeared in the woods. We could kind of see him through the woods a little bit, but they were too thick for us to get a clear shot at him. And then it got dark on us, and he just never showed back up. So I don't even know that we got pictures of him again in the next month or two. But then late season rolled around. We ended up getting a good bit of snow for a little bit. I think it was in January of, earlier this calendar year. And once we started getting some snow, deer just started pouring into this property. They were showing up around the feeders and then eating just the winter wheat that was growing in the food plots under the snow. And I mean, we had like all the bucks that I had pictures of were showing up together, and we had new bucks showing up that I just had not seen before, just some, pretty typical 8-pointers. But, late season with a bow, whenever you got tags in your pocket, it'd be a pretty good trophy. And so spent a little bit of time out there hunting in the snow and just, I did a video about it last season, but I think it's probably the last one of the year. But had just an unbelievable hunt in the snow where a group of 4 bucks came out, and then this one-sided buck was one of them, and he had already shed the side of his rack that had the fewer points. And so that day I was hunting with my crossbow and just made the decision in the moment. It's like, I know he's only got one side of his rack, but who knows what the rest of this winter is going to be like. He is for sure the oldest, biggest bodied buck on the property. He's right here broadside 20 yards away. Took a shot. If you remember, the arrow just veered off course, went right underneath him, clean miss. He ran off. Ended up getting some more pictures of him right after that. So, I mean, I knew it was a clear miss. I saw it on the video, and I think he was back later that night feeding around the feeder. So, didn't hurt anything. And obviously he's still back this year. And that hunt ended up pretty good for me because another new mysterious deer, I think he literally, first pictures I ever got of him on the property were just 24 hours before I shot him. And he came back around right at dark, and I was able to harvest that deer. So meanwhile, looking at this year, watching deer in velvet, there were quite a few bucks out here, like I said, and one was really just sticking out quite a bit wider than everybody. It doesn't have real long tines, but just really caught my eye. And then as he kind of developed more, I could see it's like, well, he's got a couple more points than all these other, cookie cutter 8-pointers out here. And then for sure, once he lost the velvet, it dawned on me. I was like, that's the big one-sided buck that I missed last year. And so now, just having multiple in-person encounters with him, shooting at him, missing him the year before, he's back, a little bit bigger, has almost a perfectly symmetrical rack this year. So I don't know what happened last year, but mainframe 10-pointer, just really cool. No telling how old he was, or he is. I guess he was probably 4 last year, so that put him around 5 this year. And so I think we really just got to hunt smart, try to get a good cold front when we're out here, wait on that, and I think we have a good opportunity to hunt him. One of the things I'm kind of noticing right now is while these bucks are grouped up, like the 2 8-pointers are running together, and then with this big guy with Magician, he's running with a couple of smaller bucks. There's I think a little spike or a fork horn, but then there's a 5-pointer that he's hanging out with, and almost every time the smaller buck and the 5-pointer are out before the big guy. And so that's just some information I'm keeping in the back of my mind. I'm going into the season of, if these 2 little bucks walk out, then be on guard and pay attention, because the big guy might be right behind him. All right. Well, it's probably been a couple hours that I've been out here working, but I have all the seed out, everything planted that I intend to plant for this deer season. So all I got to do is wait on nature to do its thing, wait on the rain to come in and get this stuff growing. And food plot wise, I should be set through the late season going into spring. So it feels good to have that crossed off the list. Gonna trim up a few shooting lanes while I'm out here at this spot. The issue that I'm having right now, which is probably common for a lot of small properties. I mean, this property, I think it's only about 30 acres. So, it kind of spreads out a little bit. There's a big open lane that goes right through the middle of it that kind of separates the deer, but once they get comfortable, they can cross that pretty easily. And so the issue that I'm running into now is the deer are showing up in both of these spots that I've got feed out and I'm planting for food plots and have stands set up at, which is good. It just spreads out the deer a little bit more. But then now we're playing the guessing game of where are they going to show up when. And a lot of times, if I'm not careful, what I find that the deer tend to do is they end up showing up in a spot where the conditions are best for them, but they're the worst for me hunting there. And so like when the wind is wrong, I think the deer just know that, and they'll show up there where if I was in the stand trying to hunt them, I'd get busted. So, these deer, the bucks weren't showing up at this spot at all through most of the summer. Got very, very few pictures of bucks at this stand, just all does and fawns. But they're showing up now, and, fairly inconsistently, but it's one of those, the more food I put out here, they're just going to get used to it, and whatever works best for them, that's where they're going to show up. So that's just part of the game that we play. And so I'll just try to hunt smart and use every advantage that I can whenever it's time to hunt. So the hit list right here is the same as the one on the other side of the property. Although there are a few more does showing up here, and so this may be a good, easy, convenient spot to take the kids hunting with me, where maybe I could harvest a doe out of here. But we'll see. It feels good knowing that things are ready. This has a great screen around it. All the vegetation's grown up, probably 6 or 7 feet tall. I made a real good wall around it, and so I really like this spot. And this is really easy and convenient to hunt. So I would like it if the bucks would use this one a little bit more, but we'll just keep an eye on the cameras and just play it smart. Sometimes we'll play it safe, take risks whenever it's time to take risks, and we'll keep you along for the journey. I got one more property I got to go to plant some stuff, and there's a few nice bucks that have showed up there that we'll talk through as well. So I'll catch up with you in just a minute. Well, I'm done with the last spot. I said I'll see you in a minute. And thanks to technology and the power of editing, it probably was just a few seconds later. But I did a lot of work since my last little video update on here. Now it looks like we got some rain moving in, so everything is planted. Got this winter wheat seed out there and triple 13 fertilizer on top of it. And like I said, lime has been out here, had a few good rains as of a couple months ago, so it should be getting worked into the soil pretty good. And so put out a little feed, got some, made sure all the cameras are going everywhere. Pulled cards on them, I haven't got a chance to go through them yet, but most of them have cellular cameras out there as well, so I have a pretty good idea of what's out here. So at this property, this is probably lowest priority right now. Used to be the best spot by far that I'd ever hunted, but with all this like properties being developed around here, it's kind of pushed the big bucks out of here. So there is still a population of deer, smaller bucks and does. I mean, there's some out here just about every day in daylight, but the big bucks are few and far between out here. And so unless something changes, probably not going to spend a lot of time out here. I do think there was one decent 7 or 8 pointer that was out here a few days ago, or a few nights ago, maybe right before dark. Don't have a name for him. We'll wait till he shows up again before we give him a name and officially put him on the hit list. He's one of those, if I'm out here hunting and he comes out here and gives me a shot, I probably wouldn't pass it up. I would take him. But other than that, there's supposed to be a spot to, like when I don't want to burn out the other spots, I'll come out here. And then if something big shows up, then I'll start spending more time out here. Other than that, probably just take my kids out here, spend some time with them, and maybe take a doe or two out here. I don't know how long I'm gonna have permission to hunt this spot in the future, so it's kind of one of those get something while you still can. So another property that I have to give you a quick update on is my parents' place. It's about 15-20 minutes away from me, and had some really good hunts out there through the years, and there always seems to be some big bucks hanging around. We've been kind of slow getting feed out there and keeping feed out there in their feeders. I did recently move their feeder around a little bit closer to the ground blind, so instead of like a 35-yard bow shot, it's more like 20, 25. So you get them pretty close. There's also a feed trough there by it. We just haven't been real consistent keeping feed out there, but the biggest bucks that we have pictures of this year are out there on their property. One of them is a real big 10-pointer that we got pictures of, I think January of this past calendar year. And just late season, he showed up one afternoon with a group of bucks just in the top corner of a picture. It was the only photo we got of him. Never saw him again. But he showed back up a couple weeks ago in the middle of the night out there. He was out there with a group of bucks that wandered through there, and then a couple hours either before or after that, there was a different group of bucks, and there was a 10-pointer out there with that group too. So a lot of potential out there if we can keep some feed out there. Also where we hunt at their property is right on a creek, and there's a whole lot of hardwoods around there. So once the white oak acorns start dropping, there could just naturally be an increase in deer activity through there anyway. So it might just be one of those, if we keep out a little bit of food, deer are going to be coming through the area, and that could get them to come close enough for a bow shot. So a lot of potential out there. So we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. All right, well, with the rain coming in, I'm hot and sweaty and probably stink. So I'm going to get out of here, get cleaned up, pick up the kids, spend some time with them this evening. We're still just a week and 2 days away from opening day of the actual bow season. I'm getting excited, even though there hasn't been just a whole lot of bucks on camera. You never know what's going to happen once deer season rolls around, especially late October through early November in the rut. There's no telling what's going to happen. All you can do is go out and spend some time in the woods. That's what we're going to plan on doing. And along the way, who knows what is going to happen as we go out and have more Arkansas adventures.